We are the Lab Doctors. I'm Amanda.
I'm Dorothy.
And I'm Zhao Yong.
We are biomedical researchers who realized we still have a lot to learn about science.
So why not join us on this quest?
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. On this week's Today We Discuss episode, we will be discussing alcohol. If you're unfamiliar, Today We Discuss episodes are the one where we did our research beforehand and now we will talk about the interesting things we have discovered.
We chose alcohol because I have a strong feeling about this topic. Basically, like the three of us, we don't really drink.
Yeah.
Like, I think Amanda only drinks at
Weddings, I guess.
Yeah,
a little bit. I don't really drink a lot. Like
I
maybe
drink at weddings.
1 or 2 glasses of wine.
I don't even drink at all. I hate the smell of alcohol. It gives me headache. But other than that, like, I don't understand why do people like it. I get that.
I don't really get it also.
Some people say they feel more relaxed after they drink a bit. But I don't like it when they drink too much. And I just feel that it doesn't make sense because they just get hungover the next day and uncomfortable. So
Yeah. It's like self-inflicted pain.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
I don't know.
Moderate amount.
Yeah.
So we were just curious about alcohol and what it does, I guess.
So let's go into the first question. What does alcohol do to the body?
Okay, so from your first sip, alcohol immediately moves into the small blood vessels in your mouth and tongue.
That's fast.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that fast.
Okay, then on an empty stomach, the alcohol moves quickly into the intestines.
Okay.
But if food is present, alcohol can remain in the stomach a bit longer and can be broken down a bit by some enzymes. That's why they say like try not to drink on an empty stomach, right? So over 3/4 of alcohol is absorbed through the small intestine into the blood. So once it's in your bloodstream, it can move quickly around your body and it stays circulating in the blood until the liver is able to break it down. So I'm sure we've all heard that the liver is the main organ responsible for breaking down alcohol.
Yeah.
And it can break down about what's equivalent to 1 drink per hour.
One drink,
One
like
drink.
one can?
No, like they have this
They
like
have the
arbitrary
this-
measurement for what is
Yeah.
1 drink. Yeah. So it's about an average rate of 1 standard drink per hour. So the liver breaks down the alcohol. The kidneys are in charge of filtering the blood in normal circumstances and even when there's alcohol in your bloodstream. So the alcohol actually makes the kidneys work harder and produce more urine. That's why people generally have the urge to urinate when they drink alcohol. So about 1/10 of alcohol leaves the body in the urine. Up to 8% is breathed out, which is why you can use breathalyzers. And a small amount of alcohol evaporates through the skin as well, which is why you sweat a bit.
Oh. I didn't know alcohol leaves through the urine. So can I set the urine on fire? Will it burn?
Flammable pee.
I don't know how, I mean, it says 10% of the alcohol consumed, but I don't know how much that equates to in urine excreted.
And it might not be in the form of the ethanol, which is the one that...
Yeah, it might be
You're
broken down
drinking, right?
already.
Yeah.
They're
That's
just,
still flammable, right?
it should be.
No idea. Who want to try?
Okay, anyway, whilst occasional drinking isn't really cause for concern, there are actually many effects of excessive alcohol intake. So I'll try to be quick and systematic, starting from the top.
I thought you were going to say sassy.
So once alcohol reaches your brain, which is actually about 30 seconds after your first sip, it can delay chemicals and pathways that your brain uses to send messages. So it can alter your mood, which is one of the most common reasons why people drink. But it also slows your reflexes and affects your coordination and may also cause memory loss.
Oh.
A bad thing is actually long-term exposure has even been shown to shrink your brain.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so the effects I'm listing is with excessive alcohol intake.
Okay.
So
Sounds safer.
alcohol can also dampen your immune system. So people who drink heavily are more likely to develop pneumonia and tuberculosis and are more susceptible to infections. In addition to the lungs, chronic drinkers have a higher risk of heart-related issues such as high blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, strokes, and heart attacks.
Oh, chronic drinkers, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
chronic drinkers. Okay, so we're not even past the midpoint of the body, but I'll try to summarize the rest. So alcohol consumption, like excessive alcohol consumption, can also cause stomach distress, frequent diarrhea, and pancreatitis. And since we're speaking of inflammation, given that the liver is the main organ for breaking down alcohol, chronic intake increases your risk of liver diseases. So as for the reproductive system, too much alcohol may lead to infertility and sexual dysfunction. And birth defects are more likely if a pregnant mom drinks heavily, as alcohol passes back and forth to the unborn baby via the placenta. And like it might also affect brain development of the baby. So alcohol also causes thinning bones, increased muscle cramps, and fatigue. effects. People who drink too much may have difficulty balancing sugar levels and absorbing nutrients and minerals. Whilst this is not an exhaustive list, these are just the common effects associated with excessive alcohol consumption. So there's a lot of negative if you didn't realize from what I was saying. I feel like the only maybe positive was that it kind of alters your mood. Okay, so since alcohol does so many things to our body, maybe one of the things that we can go to in depth is how does a hangover happen, or why does a hangover happen, and how do you prevent or cure it?
Okay, actually you said most or like half of what I'm gonna say.
Oops, sorry.
But it's okay. So the definition of a hangover basically is a group of unpleasant signs and symptoms that can develop after drinking too much alcohol. And scientists believe that this happens usually when blood alcohol levels starts to fall. And some say the worst symptoms occur when the levels reach zero.
Oh, right. That's why they were like, to prevent the hangover, you should just continue drinking and then you'll never...
Yes, that's one of the things I read. Don't remember if I'm going to say it. But basically they said like that doesn't really make sense because...
Eventually you have to stop, right?
Yeah, it will just be a cycle of like, I'm going to drink more alcohol and more. You're not going to stop. So there's other ways which I will talk about it.
I mean, just suffer the consequences basically.
Just don't drink too much lah. Okay, so some of the hangover signs is like excessive thirst and dry mouth. So because like what Amanda said, alcohol makes your body produce more urine as it inhibits the release of vasopressin. So this is a hormone that decreases the volume of urine made by the kidney. So therefore if you pee more, you'll become more dehydrated and therefore you feel thirsty. Another one is poor or decreased sleep. So alcohol makes one sleepy and prevents the deeper stages of sleep and cause awakening in the night.
We covered this in the sleep episode if you missed it.
So basically it prevents the deeper stages of sleep and causes more chances of awakening at night. It affects the sleep hormones that regulate our body clock. So that's why even though you actually feel more sleepy like after alcohol, it doesn't mean that you're more well rested. Another feature is nausea, vomiting, stomach or abdominal pain. So like what Amanda said, alcohol affects the stomach. It increases the production of stomach acid and it delays stomach emptying. And therefore like, sometimes you just feel more things in your stomach, in your abdominal area and you feel more pain. Also, it causes headaches, muscle aches, rapid heartbeat. And these are because of alcohol causing blood vessels to expand. And I guess that's what causes headaches, I think. We can go into a headache episode next time. And
that also causes the redness in the skin sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah, it does. And I guess the rapid heartbeat will probably come from the heart trying to compensate for the lower blood pressure when the blood vessels expand.
Right, yeah.
So it will start to pump faster to maintain your blood pressure. I think that's what I inferred.
Cardiac output equals heart rate times blood pressure.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so sciencey. Yeah. Also, it causes like fatigue, dizziness, shakiness, mood disturbances, and all these can even lead to like depression, anxiety, irritability. And this cause alcohol causes blood sugar level to fall, and therefore you feel more tired. Your mood's a bit bleh. And also you get some increased sensitivity to light and sound, of which this one I'm not too sure why it happens, but maybe it's like just...
I think because it's dampening your awareness and coordination, so maybe your brain is trying to compensate by increasing the sensitivity. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Of course, like then the more severe symptoms would be like seizures, passing out, like people just blacking out on the road or something. Blue, pale skin, hypothermia. Hypothermia just means like your body temperature is too low. And I guess also like this is dangerous because I don't know if you heard of like someone who climbed Mount Everest after drinking some alcohol. I don't know if it's a true story or I watched it in a movie. But basically that's dangerous because like you feel hot when you drink alcohol, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. That's why you're at risk of hypothermia because you don't know it's cold.
Because your blood vessels are all expanded.
Correct.
So you release a lot of heat.
Yeah.
but actually you are losing too much heat.
You're
and that's-
losing the core body heat,
Yeah.
which is what is important and what is measured for hypothermia or hyperthermia. So like too low or too high.
Yeah, so just be careful of that. And some slow, irregular breathing. And of course, these would mean that there is alcohol poisoning and you should seek medical attention. And one more interesting thing I found out was this thing called congeners. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. CONGENERS. Have you heard of it before?
No.
Yeah, it's... I didn't know what's this. So basically, congeners, I hope.
I think it's congeners.
Congeners?
I don't know. Okay, I totally overemphasize, but I think it's congeners.
Okay, I'll say congeners. These are byproducts of alcohol being fermented or distilled. So they are biologically active chemicals that affect the body or brain. And they are actually present in darker liquors compared to lighter ones. So I think this is just a very easy and rough gauge as to how much you should drink. So congeners give more flavor, but they also make it more likely for you to have hangovers. Yeah, so some ways to prevent hangover would be to drink those that contain less congeners. Of course, don't drink on an empty stomach because it would speed up the absorption of alcohol. So you want to slowly absorb it so that you won't like quickly get into hangover stage. Don't smoke. Apparently, combining it with drinking will make you get worse, like the lung disease all is related.
Yeah.
Sleep well after drinking and hopefully that will compensate for your lack of sleep. So perhaps don't drink on a Sunday night.
Yes.
And drink water on the go because keeping you hydrated would probably make you want to drink less alcohol.
Right.
And also replenishing with fluids can help with the hangover, even though feeling nauseous makes it difficult to ingest anything. But it really help you like filter out all the alcohol.
Right. Because if you go to the... Yeah.
And there's
then-
alcohol in the pee.
Yeah, so you're removing the alcohol.
Yeah. And some cures to hangover, if you actually get one, is to have some carbohydrates to bring your blood sugar levels back up since it actually dips. And that probably might help with relieving the fatigue. Some people say they drink coffee and tea to combat the fatigue. And while it might work because, you know, you drink coffee when you're sleepy, right? These are actually diuretics. That means they make you pee more and you get more dehydrated. So it's not actually the best. Some people get over-the-counter pain relievers such as aspirin or ibuprofen to relieve like the headaches or, you know, those pains from hangovers. However, importantly, the medication, acetaminophen, which is in like some of the forms.
Painkillers.
Yeah.
They cause liver damage if too much alcohol is consumed. There's an interaction effect.
Yeah,
So you shouldn't take it.
Oh, right. Because they are broken down by the same enzymes or something. Yeah.
And so a small study also compared like 10 hangover resistant versus 13 hangover sensitive social drinkers and found that consuming zinc and nicotic acid, which is basically vitamin B3, would reduce hangover severity. So take some vitamin B3 as well.
Okay.
And I know that sounds very negative, but are there any health benefits to drinking?
Yeah, so again, my stance on drinking is don't do it if
you
at least
can.
don't over-consume or don't chronically drink. So I first have to disclaim that some of these health benefits are from studies that are self-reported, meaning that these studies are dependent on the patient's recall, and whether or not they have been truthful about their habits is another thing. And then because it is not a randomized controlled trial, so you can Google this if you're interested, but basically it cannot determine causation, meaning it doesn't mean that alcohol definitely bring these benefits. It might be like something else altogether.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an association.
Right. It's an association, not necessarily, causation. Yeah, so more disclaimers. So any potential benefits of alcohol are generally small and they also don't apply to everyone. So I guess the guidelines from nutritionists are basically don't drink if you want to get those health benefits because there's too much risk to the benefit.
Also, I think another disclaimer is that this doesn't refer to excessive alcohol intake.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I'll go into that a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So for most people, just don't drink if you want the health benefits because there really isn't that much. But that's it. That's it. If you're a light or moderate drinker and you're healthy, meaning your blood panel, if you go do an analysis and it's all fine, then that means that however much you're drinking now is probably okay for you. Yeah. But even with light consumption, there's a 20% increase in the risk of like mouth and throat cancers. So do take note of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, don't drink if you don't have to. But so the benefits that they have determined are, firstly, it's reducing the risk of developing heart diseases. So there's a chance that it increases good high density lipoprotein in your bloodstream. So it's good for heart health, basically. It might decrease blood pressure and also lower the blood concentration of this enzyme called fibrinogen, which is important for blood clots. So it reduces blood clotting and it reduces the chance of, your arteries being clogged and stuff like that. Yeah. Then the other thing is it might also decrease the risk of ischemic stroke because, again, it reduces blood clotting, so there's less chance of strokes happening in general. It might also reduce the risk of diabetes. Yeah, but
because your blood sugar goes down.
But in moderation, because it seems to reduce insulin resistance, so your body becomes more sensitive to insulin and it's more able to take up the sugars in your body. Yeah.
Interesting.
And lastly, while drinking beer might cause weight gain, wine consumption may cause weight loss. But that's not because of the alcohol that's in red wine. That's because of the antioxidants that are in red wine. So that's it. If there are better sources of antioxidants like blueberries, just take blueberries.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no point drinking red wine. And then ultimately, again, nutritionists say that a healthy diet and being more physically active actually provides better health benefits than drinking alcohol. So just
Of course.
do those instead of drinking alcohol. And so what exactly is moderate drinking? So that means 1 drink a day for women or up to 2 drinks a day for men.
Okay, so just now Dorothy asked, right?
Yeah.
What is 1 drink?
Oh, do you Google it?
So for beer, 1 drink equals 355 milliliters or 12 fluid ounces.
That's a pint, right?
I'm not too sure. I think that's like 1 can of beer.
Around there, I guess.
Yeah. So that's 1 drink. For wine, it is 148 milliliters or 5 fluid ounces. No idea what that means, but I think that's also
Quite little.
Probably 1 glass.
Yeah,
of wine.
like the normal volume they pour in your wine glass.
Yeah.
A bit like that, right?
Yeah. And then for distilled spirits, 80 proof. I have no idea what that means, but to alcohol drinkers, distilled spirits 80 proof, 44 milliliters or 1.5 fluid ounces. So honestly, not a lot at all. You basically, I think even for social drinkers that maybe they feel that they don't drink too much, I think we are already drinking at about like 3. We don't drink. I feel like this sounds like a lie now, but we really don't drink.
Yeah. I really don't even know what's distilled spirit.
I have no idea what
Assuming whiskeys, right?
all of these mean. But
I googled 1 pint is 16 fluid ounces. So if you're drinking 1 pint of beer, that's already over your intake per day if you're a woman.
For women, and it's about already 1.5 drinks for men. Yeah, so actually, honestly, not a lot.
I guess this is counting daily though, because I also googled that like some people go by the measurement per week.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just this times 7. So whether in a week do you drink 7 times this amount?
But I guess the rate at which you drink it also
matters. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah. So that's it. Again, drinking alcohol don't really provide that many health benefits. Exercising and healthy diet actually is better. And so talking about all these effects, there's also a particular effect that we are very interested in, which is the Asian flush. If you are not, used to this term, it's basically why some Asians, when they drink even very little amounts, their whole face turns red. And so why does this happen for Asians, I guess?
Right. So Asians, usually like the East Asians, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, they tend to become more red after they drink. And basically, many people, they have this muted or altered gene that causes insufficient production of aldehyde dehydrogenase 2. So this is an enzyme that breaks down acetaldehyde into harmless acetate. So many A words. Okay, so basically like alcohol.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh my god, this episode. All the best editing.
Why, that was a good joke. Basically, like alcohol is broken down into acetaldehyde, and then after that, it becomes broken down eventually into carbon dioxide and water by this enzyme, aldehyde dehydrogenase 2. So, if you lack this working enzyme or this efficient form of the enzyme, acetaldehyde would accumulate in your blood. Right, and this would cause blood vessels to dilate, making the face or other parts of the body red.
Right.
So it's like your body's warning sign. According to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, acetaldehyde is a group 1 carcinogen. That means it is like it can induce tumor formation.
Yeah.
Because it damages the DNA and stops the cells from repairing the damages.
Right.
Some cells and bacteria in our mouths and our gut also can convert alcohol into acetaldehyde too. I don't know why this is so difficult. So it increases the risk of oropharyngeal cavity. Oropharyngeal cancer, which basically means cancer at the back of your mouth or oral cavity.
Yeah.
What about Asian flush patches though? So some people put these patches thinking that it would help. According to one manufacturer in Singapore, their patch contains glutathione, and this glutathione helps to convert acetaldehyde into harmless acetic acid. So basically they're claiming it's good because it helps you clear acetaldehyde and therefore you become less red.
Right.
However, the Health Science Authority in Singapore who noted that one of its ingredients is regulated under the Singapore's Poison Act. So, and also the patch isn't regulated by HSA themselves, so they recommend that you use it with caution.
So they're allowing it even though it is not.
For that article dated like June 2019, they said like at that point of time it was not regulated by HSA. Now I don't know whether it is or whether they have stopped letting them sell it.
Yeah.
But that was June 2019 article.
Interesting.
Yeah, and some people take antihistamines. I don't really understand how antihistamines work for the reducing the redness. But these antihistamines are different from the ones when you get like hives or rashes or So because they work by targeting a different histamine receptor. So it's not the same. Don't take the same drugs. Some people think like taking antihistamines will help you drink more, but this isn't good for your body because this is already a warning sign, right? And if you start drinking too much just because you think you take all these drugs or patches, you can like get more chances of getting alcohol poisoning. And also, if you take too much antihistamines, you might develop tolerance and more reliance for it over time. So it's not that good.
So the Asian flush is actually a sign.
Yeah, it's a warning sign.
Yeah.
Basically, your body just can't take it, so don't.
As much as other people, unfortunately or fortunately, that you have that sign.
Yep. So another question we had was, what's the difference between binge drinking and chronic drinking, and if either one is worse?
Okay, so if you're like me, you're probably wondering what's the difference. So I Googled it, and binge drinking is a pattern of drinking that brings your blood alcohol concentration to above a certain level. And it typically happens when you consume 4 or 5 drinks within 2 hours.
Is that a lot? That's a lot, right?
I mean, if you're talking about one drink per day.
Yeah,
I know. But I'm like, can you even drink that much? Is that physically
some people
possible?
can,
Oh
I
God.
guess.
Well, if distilled spirits is 1.5 fluid ounces, if you think about it.
Right.
Okay, so in contrast, chronic drinking refers to people who drink 1 drink or 2 drinks per day, like the moderate.
Yeah.
Just over that amount. So back to the question, which is worse? So according to a study conducted in the University of Southampton, chronic drinking is the biggest risk factor for serious liver diseases, specifically cirrhosis, which is the scarring of the liver, or progressive fibrosis. They also showed that with a doubling of alcohol consumption in the UK, deaths from liver diseases increased 8-fold within the same time frame. So researchers attributed this to increase in daily chronic drinking.
Right.
So in a similar vein, studies in rodents showed that chronic drinking caused more liver injury compared to acute exposure. So daily excessive drinking can program the liver to become dependent on alcohol, which is scary because when the person stops drinking, the liver continues to be sick, so to say. But if they don't stop drinking, their liver will also deteriorate.
It's a bit like smoking also, right?
Yeah, lose-lose. There's no winning.
So saying that chronic drinking is worse is not saying that binge drinking is fine.
Right.
Yeah, they are both harmful. So actually, some people note that this question is actually a bit dangerous. So it is still important to note that they are both harmful and it's just different type of harm. So chronic drinking is just worse in terms of liver disease and injury.
Right. But then in terms of all the other things that we have mentioned before, binge drinking probably does that as well.
Yeah.
I'm more curious at how they give the rodents alcohol.
Just don't give them the water tube. Just give them
the alcohol.
Is that ethical?
No, because the ethics come in like how much damage to the mice. You know, like because when you induce tumor, you can't let the tumor grow above a certain size.
Right. Yeah.
So they will stop at like when it's inhumane for.
Right.
Is inhumane the correct word?
Mousy.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, so maybe our last question for this episode is alcohol withdrawal and what are the effects of alcoholism?
Yeah, so I think Amanda touched a bit on how your liver becomes reliant on alcohol,
Yeah.
right? Similarly, your brain also becomes reliant on alcohol.
Oh, damn.
And that is what happens when you experience alcohol withdrawal, or alcoholics in general, when they stop drinking completely, they start experiencing these symptoms because alcohol is a depressant. So that causes, your brain function and the communication between your nerves to be weaker, to be less strong. And weaker and less strong are the same thing, but so over time your brain just becomes used to it, and then they have to overproduce a lot of these signaling chemicals to allow your brain to continue to communicate with itself. So that's because it anticipates alcohol to get into your body to depress these neural signals. Yeah, so it's very, very similar to smoking and how smoking causes, a reliance in your neural system. It's the same. Yeah. And so that's why when people don't drink, and that's why I think it's also very similar to hangover and how, you have increased sensitivity to light and sound. And that's because your brain just compensates for all these things. Yeah, but for alcoholism and alcohol withdrawal, it's just chronic. It just happened over a very long period of time, and that's why your body is just at this state right now. This is your baseline. This is your resting state. Yeah. And so there are many symptoms of alcohol withdrawal. Most of it have to do with the brain, such as anxiety, nausea, vomiting, headaches, increased heart rate. I think a lot of these things we have already mentioned before, but more severely, because of all this heightened state of awareness, you start having extreme confusion, agitations. You might even have audio and visual hallucinations. And that's why alcoholism is very dangerous. And so I guess ultimately, when you drink, do try to drink in moderation. Don't drink and drive.
Yes, don't drink and drive.
Yeah, please, when you drink and drive, it's not only your own life that you're risking other people's lives as well. And lastly, don't get too caught up on the health benefits of alcohol, because it's not very clear whether or not these benefits are actually better than the risk of drinking alcohol
definitely
at all, right? So, and I guess in closing, as usual, please follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Honestly, a like and a comment would really help us. So do comment if you feel very passionate about these topics.
Yes. You can also follow us on our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Feel free to DM us any questions.
Alternatively, you can email us at thelabdoctors@gmail.com. And if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. We would really appreciate it.
Bye.
Drink responsibly.
Stay safe. Bye.
Don't drink if you don't have to.
Bye.
Bye.